So hey folks, kev&suz here, your go-to source for all the news and insights about living and relocating here in South Florida. And hey folks, hold on to your hats because we're going to delve deep into basically the newest controversy hitting Florida and especially South Florida. It's called the Sunshine State Property Act. So, I mean, and it's causing all kinds of waves here down in coastal Florida, okay? And we're kind of here to give you all the juicy details and kind of tell you what's going on, all the nitty-gritty stuff. But before we jump into it, let's kind of get a little background on it. So here's this new law, essentially, that Governor DeSantis went into effect on July 1st, 2023. And what it does is it puts limits on who can own property in Florida. And it's targeting folks, especially from countries like China, Russia, Syria, different countries that are not necessarily on our most favored country list. So let's talk a little bit about the intention of the law and the controversy surrounding it. So, like I said, essentially what it's about, it's to really curb the influence the Chinese government in Florida. But what it's really facing is it's facing a lot of backlash around national origin discrimination. And, you know, it's basically what happened is that the courts have now been urged to basically block the Florida buyer property law. So, and what's happening is that a lot of the attorneys are, for the plaintiffs, the folks that are fighting this, are basically saying that it just restricts people from basic property ownership here in Florida. And there's, in all fairness to the rest of the country, there are similar cases going on in other states in the union too. But essentially what it's really right now is because of the concerns that are out over and we're not going to jump into sides here, but the concerns that are out over, over the amount of land that the Chinese are buying, and especially communist China are acquiring. They're trying to just basically curb the influence of the Chinese. Now, the thing about it is that it's not just restricted to China. It's also inclusive of Russia, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, and Syria. Countries that, again, that the U.S. perceives are not necessarily doing things in their best interest. So kind of what does this really mean? So what it really comes down to is basically, let's take a look at it from the standpoint of when we were kids. We kind of had our little clubhouse. Okay, you get a clubhouse where you and your friends want to hang out. So the question comes down to, like it was when we were kids, okay, who can join and who can't, okay? And basically there's a bunch of people that can join. Most people who want to can buy property here in Florida. But there are some folks that are being discouraged from doing it, and they're trying to, and they have essentially, to put legislation in place to keep folks from being able to buy this land. Now, it's not land everywhere, but there's specific aspects of it, or specific details. It's basically, they want to control the ownership of farmland, okay? And they also want to control the ownership of properties within 10 miles of important places like military bases or other places that are vital for national security or for the security of the country. So, why has this become such a big thing about China? Well, folks, as everybody knows, China's been in the news lately, okay? And there are some exceptions. I mean, you can still buy the land, but essentially you can't buy it within 10 miles of a military base. And I believe that they're also trying to enable limits on how much land you can actually buy so that basically, you're not going to end up controlling the whole area. So it's kind of like, you have your clubhouse, your treehouse in your backyard, okay? And basically, okay, really, you know what, folks? Really, only my close friends can come in. So, and if you're not my close friend, or if you're not a friend of us right now, okay, you can't come in. Now, it's just basically kind of how it's working. So basically, kind of what's at the core, if you will, of the plaintiff's arguments. And what they're really coming back and saying is that it's discriminatory against the Fair Housing Act. It's drawing a comparison to the use of the word domicile. Okay, and basically what is that it's just being discriminatory, okay? And it's also drawing some parallels to some of the previous historic things around alien land laws, and it's perpetuating a stereotype against the Chinese people. So, it's kind of a little bit mixed and muddled. So, from the standpoint of just trying to kind of provide a little more clarification. So basically, who is this law really focused on, okay? And the law is mainly aimed at folks from China who aren't U.S. citizens and don't have a green card. So I mean, and everybody knows that all of this stuff about the green card and citizenship and are you a legal U.S. citizen? All this is in the news today. So, and what is it really kind of stopping them from doing? Well, really, it stops folks from China and potentially other countries who want to call Florida their home, okay, from basically buying property here. Now, I will tell you that there are other countries that have very similar laws and legislation. I will tell you that there are other countries such as Mexico that have limitations and have restrictions on who can own property and where they can own it. Okay, but basically, you know, and are there any restrictions or any special cases on it? And there are a few special cases. Okay, then generally what the law says is basically that, you know, if you're not a U.S. citizen, if you're a Chinese citizen, you're not a U.S. resident, you don't have a green card, essentially you can't own property. Okay, and actually what it may end up doing is, one of the fears is that it may end up requiring foreign nationals who own property in Florida to basically to register their ownership of their land in Florida. And they're drawing parallels to what happened to the Jews during World War II, what happened to folks of Japanese American descent during World War II. I mean, and but it's limited. It's going to apply basically only to Chinese, Russian, Iranian, Syrian, North Korean, Venezuelan, and Cuban nationals. Okay, it would be foreign nationals would be restricted from basically owning agricultural land in Florida or land near military installations or critical infrastructures. You know, and it's just one of these things. It's really kind of coming out to try to prevent foreign ownership of property in Florida from folks that are not perceived as being friendly to the U.S. So kind of what's the judges or what's the law's perspective? And right now, essentially what's happened is that the judges actually refused to issue the preliminary injunction against the law. And what the judge is saying is that the law doesn't facially discriminate based upon race or national origin, as it classifies based on domicile, not on race. Now, granted, that is a little bit of a tricky situation, but what it is that there's really no substantial evidence of unlawful or, you know, any kind of animosity from the legislator. They're just trying to control ownership to people who, quote unquote, are not residents of the United States. And basically and they're arguing over the word domicile. They're trying to basically use the word domicile to be the same or be synonymous with race. Okay, and basically it's saying it's discrimination because it's only for a certain group of people. And basically, you know, domicile kind of is like your home address. It's kind of like, you know, it's what a lot of folks are saying, or what the folks that are opposed to this law are saying, is that basically the domicile, it's like saying that you're from a certain area, okay, and therefore you can't do this. So, you know, and at the end of the day, folks, I mean, as everybody knows, the Fair Housing Act, discrimination of any type, okay, is just not allowed. So, you know, and basically it's causing a lot of consternation, and it's causing a lot of concern with folks that are looking to basically, for foreign nationals that are looking to basically buy property here in South Florida. Okay, so folks, so let's kind of get into the nitty-gritty of this. And basically, you know, is this really a vital safeguard against foreign influence, or does it unfairly single out Chinese citizens? Okay, now here's the thing. If this law stands strong, it could become a precedent for using domicile as kind of a sneaky or a kind of a little suspicious way for discriminating based upon where you're from. That in itself is a game changer. But there's more. This whole law and this whole thing kind of sparks a debate kind of around, you know, it's tight walking between what really is national security interest, and also folks' individual rights. Okay, we're talking about a delicate balance that could have implications way beyond Florida boundaries and Florida borders. So folks, you know, and it's issues like these that really make it important for you to be able to reach out if you have questions or concerns about properties. We've said in some of our other videos that a lot of property sales down in the South Florida area, especially in the Broward County and Palm Beach County areas, they do come from foreign investors. This is really putting a significant pressure on whether or not foreign investors are going to look to continue to invest here in South Florida. They have traditionally been a very significant part of the South Florida real estate market. So again, folks, if you have any questions about this, I would strongly suggest that you reach out to experts like my team and I. You can give us a call, you can shoot us a little text, you can send us a little email. Click on the calendar link at the bottom. You can set a little time up for us to chit chat about what's going on, about this, about the Sunshine Law, or, you know, about any other concerns that you may have about South Florida real estate or what's going on here in the South Florida real estate market. So now that we've talked a little bit about what the law is, and we talked a little bit about what the attorneys are saying, what the judge is saying, okay, so basically, you know, what are people saying about this? Now, what we've seen is basically two schools of thought, if you will. There's actually three perspectives. There's a group of people who just really don't care. Okay, it's one of these things where, you know, they're so concerned about what's going on in the market as a whole, and without good justification. To them, this is just one more thing that's either a good or a bad thing in the market. But there are a lot of folks basically that have it from a public opinion perspective. Now, you know, Twitter's been buzzing with this. You know, YouTube has been buzzing with this. you know, Instagram and all of the, and Facebook and all the different areas. But basically what's going on, okay, is that, you know, there's a lot of folks that are sounding off about this. And, you know, it's like anything else. Everybody believes that their opinion is the best opinion. Everybody believes that their perspective is the best and only perspective. I would strongly encourage you, again, to reach out to, if you have any questions about this, if you want to need some more details about this, you know, full transparency. You know, we're not attorneys, we're realtors. So, but we do know and work with a lot of real estate attorneys and a lot of attorneys so that we can certainly look to help you get more clarification on this. This is something you're concerned about. If you have buyers that are interested that you're not sure whether or not they are Chinese nationals or they're part of Russian or Syrian or any of the other folks, any of the other groups that are being called out in this, let us know. We can certainly help work with you on some of the issues around there, and we can also kind of point you in the right direction of where to go look at for additional information, okay, and some, you know, and so basically for some additional direction. So basically, so, you know, kind of where's the governor and where's the legislature on this, and essentially the Governor DeSantis and the legislature, what they're coming out and they're saying is that this is kind of like, the analogy they're using is basically, it's like adding armor to the ship, okay, and they think it's important to protect Florida and the rights of Floridians and the rights of property owners, to make sure they're protecting those rights, and they want to protect them from potential storms and problems and what's going on, okay? And they are worried about, and from their perspective, and not without reasonable cause or justification, again, from Governor DeSantis and the legislator's perspective, that basically they are concerned about undue influence coming in, and they want to make sure that you want to try to keep our valuable resources, of which property in itself and land is in of itself, especially here in South Florida, where folks, as we've said before, they're just not making any more land. Okay, that's a very, very valuable resource. So, you know, it's kind of like putting on a, you know, kind of like putting additional coat of armor on your ship, or it's kind of like putting on a very, very strong suit to be safe. But it also raises questions as basically, how far can you go, okay? And is this really in everybody's best interest? Okay, you know, everybody takes a look at it. X believes the plaintiff has a strong case for doing what they're doing. Expert Y comes back and says that the law's intent is national security, not discrimination. Okay, and then expert Z comes back and says, but it is discrimination because you're discriminating against a group of individuals. So basically, folks, it's kind of, right now the opinions are kind of all over the map on it. Okay, there will be some clarity that comes out of this as things begin to formulate. But again, I mean, opinions are as varied as there are folks here in South Florida. So folks, the battle surrounding the Sunshine State Property Act is just kind of pondering really some questions about the balance between safeguarding national security, okay, and safeguarding individual rights. You know, when you have experts weighing in on both sides, you know, public opinion becomes divided. It's clear the implications of this are going to go far beyond South Florida's shores. So, you know, folks, we hope this discussion has provided you with some valuable insights. We encourage you to continue engaging with this important conversation. If you have any questions, please, again, feel free to reach out and give us a call, shoot us a little text, a little email, set up the Calendly link at the bottom. If you would, go ahead and click subscribe so that we can make sure that we get this information out to you. Hit the little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video out. You know, and thanks for joining us today on Living in Fort Lauderdale with Kev&suz. You know, and again, be sure to subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Okay, and again, please feel free to leave those comments. We love it when we get the comments, and we love being able to respond to those.